Tonight, miracle on the Hudson. A jetliner filled with passengers crashes in the frigid waters off Manhattan, and everyone on board survives. We'll have the latest on how the skill of the pilots and the heroics of first responders prevented a disaster. I'm Katie Couric, just a few hundred yards from the scene of the crash. Survivors here faced frigid temperatures, but New York City isn't the only place. Everyone, as you can imagine, it was an incredible, almost surreal scene here in New York City. Just behind me in the Hudson River, a jetliner with more than 150 people on board actually floating here in the freezing waters, and one by one, every one of the passengers and crew was rescued. U.S. Airways Flight 1549 had just taken off from LaGuardia Airport in Queens for Charlotte, North Carolina, when it apparently hit a flock of birds, knocking out both of the plane's engines. Even without power, though, the pilots managed to maneuver the Airbus A320 northward over the Bronx, make a sharp turn south, then follow the Hudson River alongside Manhattan Island, losing altitude along the way, and finally coming to rest on the river. And then that's when, as Randall Pinkston tells us, emergency crews suddenly stepped into action. Randall?
Katie, considering the freezing temperatures and the speed of that plane when it hit the water, the passengers, the aviation experts, everyone says it's a miracle that everyone survived. The Hudson River shortly after takeoff from New York's LaGuardia Airport.
Less than 2 minutes up in the air, it was a big boom. Everybody smelled smoke.
The captain came on and says, "Look, we're going down. Brace for impact."
It was just moments into the flight when the plane's pilot radioed air controllers. He had lost both engines after hitting what may have been a flock of birds.
As we got lower and lower, the pilot said, "Brace for impact."
Everyone kind of looked at each other and said some prayers. You know, I said about 5 Our Fathers, 5 Hail Marys, and we hit the water.
Witnesses watched as the plane began gradually reviving memories for some of September 11th.
It's coming down, and just right in the water.
Yeah. We thought it was going to veer in and hit a building, actually.
It was pretty scary.
The plane then skimmed across the water 100 yards or more before coming to a rest just off Midtown Manhattan.
Right past the piers, and it just, no smoke, but it just landed. When it landed, threw up a whole bunch of water.
These photos show dozens of passengers huddled on the jet's wings waiting for rescue. Many New Yorkers could only watch from the windows of their office buildings, including CBS News.
As I looked out and I saw the life rafts come out, sort of open up from the plane, I grabbed a pair of binoculars and was able to see people standing on the aircraft wings. They seemed pretty calm. It wasn't so chaotic as I would expect it to be.
Nearby, commuter ferries pulled up within minutes, pulling aboard passengers and crew. Rescuers face 3 more challenges: a sinking airplane, frigid water, and strong currents pulling the jet downriver.
They did a phenomenal job getting everybody out.
In an emergency, the Airbus jet is designed to fly on one engine to a nearby airport. But this seems to be the rare case when the plane lost both engines.
It is an extraordinarily rare event that both engines go out. It's not so unusual that a single engine goes out, or you get hit and your windscreen gets cracked. But to lose both engines is a 1 in a million shot.
Many of the passengers are being treated at hospitals in New York and New Jersey for injuries, including shock and possible hypothermia. A former military pilot once told me that anytime you can get off a plane safely, it's a good landing. Today, the pilot of that U.S. Air jet made a very good landing. Katie?
All right, Randall Pinkston. Randall, thanks very much. Now, you can only imagine the fear among the passengers during those few minutes the plane was in the air and then, of course, landed in the water. Joining me now is David Sanderson. He was one of the last passengers out of the plane. And David, first of all, how are you doing right now? What were your experiences as a result of this? Do you have any injuries?
I'm much better now, Katie. Thank you for asking. The staff had done an outstanding job in taking care of me, so thank you to them. No, the pilot gets all the credit. When I was watching how it was coming down, there was no way he could have landed on the ground. He did the right thing, so I give him all the credit. It was pretty much controlled chaos on the plane. And
can you tell me, David, sort of what happened? Because I understand you were only in the air for about 6 minutes. Can you just give me the details of what transpired before the plane went into the water?
Yeah, I heard an explosion, and I looked down. I saw I saw some flames coming out from underneath the wing, and I showed the guy next to me. I said something happened, but he should be able to land it. But unfortunately, he started coming down pretty quick. So once he said that brace for impact, pretty much everybody paid attention to him doing that. But then when he went down, it was pretty significant hit coming down. Fortunately for me, I just hit my head and I came back up. But getting people off the plane was quite a challenge, but everybody did the right thing and got off the plane. And we got the people on the lifeboat as quickly as we could, and fortunately we got everybody out. And I was fortunate.
Was it a pretty, yeah. I'm sorry, we're having some audio problems, David. I'm sorry to interrupt, but was it a pretty orderly evacuation?
As orderly as it could be under the circumstances. People were climbing over the seats and coming down the aisles, but it was, for such a tragic situation, people did as well as they possibly could in the situation.
And you were the last one out of the plane. I understand you were actually in the plane after it landed for 7 minutes. Was it filling up with water? What was it like inside that plane for those 7 minutes?
Yeah, once we got everybody out, I stood in the plane to make sure everybody was out, and it was filling up pretty rapidly, and it got up to about waist level. And then when everybody was out in the lifeboats, I then stepped out on the edge there, and it was about knee deep at that point. And then stepped down on the wing, and then it was waist deep again. And then at that point, the boats were already there taking people up, and I just jumped in and started trying to swim to the first boat I could find. So they fortunately someone pulled me up on the boat because I didn't have much use of my lower extremities at that point, and they pulled me up and threw me on the boat, and thank God that they did.
Well, we're very glad you're safe, and it sounds like you were very heroic in making sure that all those passengers were out. And do you have hypothermia or any physical ailments as a result of this?
Fortunately, feeling is coming back in my lower extremities right now, and other than a bang on the shin, I knew that I felt it when I jumped out. I'm good to go. So once again, they're taking great care of me here at the hospital.
All right. Well, we're really happy to hear that you're safe. David Sanderson, thanks so much for taking time out to talk with us tonight. We appreciate it so much.
You're welcome, Katie. Thank you.
Okay, let's go now to talk about bird strikes. They're a lot more common than you may think. According to the FAA, from 1990 until 2007, planes have hit birds nearly 80,000 times. In more than 9,000 cases, the damage was in fact serious, and 11 people have died as a result. More on the dangers of bird strikes from our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
When it came to the cause of the crash, Flight 1549 appears to have been a textbook case of a bird strike. Experts say the vast majority of collisions with birds occur at low altitude during landing or takeoff. Jet engines are particularly vulnerable during takeoff when they are turning at very high speed.
The danger from birds around airports is really engine ingestion.
A flock of birds, as in the case of 1549, are considered especially dangerous, leading to multiple engine failure. That's because as birds are violently sucked into the engine and against the blades, those blades can be ripped apart, resulting in catastrophic failure.
If it gets into the core of the engine, where the fuel is actually burned, it can disrupt that burning of fuel and cause a loss of power and even a flame out.
The amount of damage also depends on the size of the bird. To better understand bird strikes, aircraft manufacturers are known to fire chickens into engines as part of the testing and certification process. There were more than 5,000 bird strikes in 2007, but only about 10% resulting in damage. The FAA estimates bird and wildlife strikes cost airlines in the U.S. more than $600 million a year and have caused more than 200 deaths worldwide since 1988. Today, however, thanks to the remarkable efforts of 2 pilots and 3 flight attendants, that death toll never moved. Armin Katayan, CBS News, New York.